Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to the Fandom Zone podcast. I'm Charles Skaggs, one of your co-hosts here on the Fandom Zone, as we're talking more of The Boys Season 2 as we get ever closer to The Boys Season 2 finale. And I'm joined once again, of course, by my wonderful co-host, wonderful pal from across the pond, shall we say, and just generally a nice guy. DJ Nick, how you doing, Nick?
Hey, Charles. I'm doing very, very well, thank you. Super happy to be with you once again. I always look forward to Monday. I always love recording. I always look forward to Mondays. Unlike Garfield, I'm a fan of Mondays these days.
You're a fan of Mondays. Well, that's good to know. So, yes, Mondays, it's going to be feeling a little weird, though, here in a couple weeks when we're after we've wrapped up.
It will be, yes. I'm going to feel terribly bereft, I tell you, unless we find something else to talk about. But...
Well, I think we have something in mind, but not until January. Although
this is true. There's
going to be a couple of episodes I probably want to do in the meantime, because we'll still have episodes 199 and 200.
Ooh, so close to 200.
Yeah, so we should probably, because we're here at episode 197. As we talk Butcher, Baker, Candlestick Maker. The 7th episode of The Boys Season 2 aired on October 2nd, 2020. So just last month, barely. So yeah, we've got episodes 198 and 199. So we'll do 198 next time. So that leaves 199 and 200. So maybe we should cook up something.
To figure something out, because those are big episodes.
Yeah, so start thinking of something you'd like to do to kind of, if you're interested, and maybe you can bring Jesse in or whatever.
Yes,
and make it a
because
nice little.
He should be part of this momentous occasion.
He should. So I don't think we've forgotten about Jesse, because we certainly haven't. So yeah, maybe we got to start thinking about that. Just kind of put that on the back burner for now, because right now. Like I said, we're talking Butcher, Baker, Candlestick Maker, which was written by Craig Rosenberg, who wrote the previous Season 2 episode Over the Hill with the Swords of 1,000 Men. Probably my favorite episode title of the season. And also wrote the Season 1 episodes of the Self-Preservation Society and The Female of the Species from Season 1, like I said. Directed by Stefan Schwartz. May the Schwartz be with you. Spaceballs reference, couldn't resist. Who directed the Season 1 episode Good for the Soul, if you remember that. So, Nick, there's a lot going on in this one, as we kind of briefly discussed while I was running down our topics before we started recording. And we got a lot to talk about, sir. So, in general, what are your thoughts on this one?
Well, as it often is the case with an episode leading up to a season finale,
the penultimate episode.
There's a lot to wrap up before you get to the big climax, because everybody obviously is getting ready for the last episode. It was like, okay, so how are we going to get to showing everybody the how all the storylines wrap up somewhat in the last episode. So that obviously it is jam packed. I was actually surprised that the runtime is actually lower compared to previous episodes, because I'd figured this would probably be an hour plus. Right. I think this was about 54 minutes, give or take. But yeah, they were able to condense so much into roughly an hour, because I believe the runtime is about 54, 55 minutes. But It's great storytelling.
That's still nothing to sneeze at, though. 54 minutes is pretty good
Oh,
for,
totally.
I mean, especially when you think about like the CW shows, which with after commercials, after you take all the commercials out, probably run, 40 minutes at best
Yes.
anymore.
You're looking about 3/4 of an hour
Yeah.
thereabouts.
So it's still a good, decent amount of programming.
And unlike certain shows that maybe run 45 minutes, where they don't use the time wisely, here they are very, very good at dosing things. I should say it's so well done. I really enjoyed this. It's a great lead-in to what comes next. They were very thrifty when it comes to this. They spent their time wisely.
Right. And especially when you consider there's so much going on. But like you said, I think you're absolutely right that they delegated their time wisely and were very efficient about it. They touch on a lot of things, but they don't dwell on them. So therefore, I think you get a little bit more bang for your buck per minute in this episode.
Very much so. I mean, it can go both ways because you are opening various doors, so it's maybe even more challenging when you get to the finale of how do you wrap up everything that you've put out there. But so far,
yeah,
pretending that we haven't seen the finale just yet, it is very, very well orchestrated.
Oh yeah. We didn't see the finale. No, what finale? I don't know what you're talking about. All right.
There's another episode?
Who knew, right? Well, I'm surprised. I guess we'll just have to wait and be surprised like everybody else, right?
Like, ooh. Yeah.
All right. There was a few actors I wanted to mention as guest cast this time. Some pretty notable ones. John Noble, in particular. John Noble playing Sam Butcher, Billy Butcher's father, which I love the casting in this one.
Oh, yes.
Big John Noble fan. He, of course, played Denethor in the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Yeah, it was a nice little Lord of the Rings get-together there between, of course, Éomer and Denethor.
Karl Urban, nice. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty brilliant. Okay, so maybe it wasn't as good as it could have been because, well, Denethor and Éomer weren't related in Lord of the Rings.
No, true. But it's a nice, representing Rohan and representing Gondor. I thought that was kind of cool.
Very nice. Look at Nicol up in his Lord of the Rings. Look at you. Nice. Nick gets the one ring to rule them all this episode.
Thank you. I try. Being a Tolkien fan for that long pays off, I guess.
Excellent. Yes. Maybe we need to talk about those movies one of these days.
Mm-hmm.
But I got to become I became a huge John Noble fan in addition to Lord of the Rings, but Fringe that he was on played a character named Dr. Walter Bishop, who I adored. He was essentially like the psychedelic drug-taking version of the Doctor from Doctor Who, almost in a lot of ways. That Dr. Walter Bishop was this brilliant physicist that discovered parallel worlds, and as a result, eventually crossed over to a parallel world to retrieve his dead son, like the parallel world version of his dead son, Peter, and brought him back. But Walter Bishop was just such a fun character. Fun, unpredictable character, completely unlike Denethor. Because you love to hate Denethor in Lord of the Rings, but you just loved Walter Bishop because he was always doing something crazy, something unexpected, and just a joy to watch. And I gather you're a fan of the series as well.
Oh yes, and you know what? And the voice. John Noble is another man who's blessed with a beautiful voice.
I would kill for his voice. Seriously.
Oh, you and me both. And of course, I do remember him as well as being the better part of Sleepy Hollow, the TV show.
Yes. Yeah, he was that. And also, I've come to know him as my wife Lori and I have been going back through Elementary, the CBS TV series, which is kind of like a modernized Sherlock Holmes.
To Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah. Not like the one... it's essentially like a more Americanized version being on CBS than the BBC version with Benedict Cumberbatch. But he played a character named Moreland Holmes, who was introduced as Sherlock's father.
Oh, okay.
And became a recurring character on the show.
I mean, I don't want to digress too much here, Charles, but I mean, because I'm a huge, huge fan of the Sherlock Holmes, starring,
Yes.
of course, Benedict Cumberbatch. Is Elementary worth it? You know, for both my benefit and for the listeners' benefit, if they're fans of Sherlock Holmes, should they check it out? In your opinion?
I think they should. I think they should check it out. Now, personally, I prefer the Sherlock that stars Benedict Cumberbatch and Martin Freeman. But when you've burned through all those episodes, then check out Elementary. I think you'll find it's its own thing. Johnny Lee Miller is a completely different Holmes, but he gives it his own spin, and they definitely play up the recovering addict and angle with Holmes in this film.
So more of the kind of heroine kind of thing compared to maybe Cumberbatch.
Yeah, because he regularly goes to meetings and whatnot, and he's constantly struggling with it. It gets addressed every so often. I mean, he's sober for the most part, but every rarely so often he does fall off the wagon, and so it's a completely different take than Benedict Cumberbatch's version.
And I'm so looking forward to apparently the new season of Sherlock that they've announced.
Yeah, exactly.
I know it's in the works. I am so looking forward.
Fingers crossed. Yeah, right. We'll see what happens. But and then he's got Johnny Lee Miller. I know where you need to get on, but Johnny Lee Miller has obviously a very different dynamic with Lucy Liu as his Watson in this.
Yeah, of course, compared to Martin Freeman and that, and of course, yeah, it stands to reason.
It does. Yeah. So it's a completely different dynamic, but I think it's also equally valid if you're looking for that modernized Sherlock Holmes take.
I'll check it out for sure.
Right. Yeah. Recommended. Check it out. See what you think. All right. So, yeah, big fan of John Noble. Lesley Nicol plays Connie Butcher, and she might be familiar to people who are fans of the show Downton Abbey because, hey, she plays Mrs. Patmore.
That's right.
The ever-frazzled Mrs. Patmore, the kitchen chef, kitchen cook. And,
God bless that woman, seriously.
Yeah. She's just a joy to watch on Downton Abbey, and very interesting to see her in this role. A complete change, obviously, because hey, she's a very talented actress and can do a number of different types of roles. But it's definitely, after seeing her for so long as Mrs. Patmore, it does take some adjusting to realize that she's playing Butcher's mom in this.
And I believe she's actually British, because I went and did my research when it came to Butcher's aunt.
Yes.
And she's a Canadian actress. That's why the accent didn't sit right with me.
Well, there you go. I'm looking. Nick's doing his homework too. That's looking. You came prepared,
I can't
sir.
just kind of just sort of sit here and let you, just drive and everything else, and me just relax. I've got to do my homework too.
Well, I appreciate that. See, I just wing it. But, Nick's the responsible one, I guess, today. All right. And John Doman plays Jonah Vogelbaum, and who is very important in the boys' comic mythos. And if you're a fan of the TV show Gotham from not too long ago, you probably recognize him, of course, as Carmine Falcone, or Falcone, depending on your pronunciation.
Yes.
But I always preferred Falcone, but that's me.
That's actually closer to the Italian, if you will, because the Italian would be Falcone.
Falcone?
But,
okay.
Yes, which is Big Falcon, which is basically Falcon. Falcone, right. Yeah. And he, I loved him in that. He embraced the Italian mob boss so well.
So you approved of his portrayal.
Oh,
Gotham.
Of course, yes. Okay. I was like, yes, because you're a horrible person, but you're embracing that Italian spirit.
The only thing, and I know we keep digressing here, but hey, it's us. So the only thing that kind of disappointed me about his portrayal of Falcone on Gotham was he didn't have the facial scar that Falcone has in the comics. It's particularly in Batman: The Long Halloween, one of my favorite all-time Batman stories.
Yeah, because there it's clearly a tribute to Capone and also to The Godfather and everything else. But yeah,
Carmine the Roman Falcone. Yeah.
Great comics.
Yeah, great comics indeed. So I just thought I'd mention those notable actors in this one. All right. So, trivia. So if you're wondering, of course, about Butcher Baker Candlestick Maker, how it compares to the comics, because it's kind of been a running theme this season.
Yeah.
This one comes from the limited series, The Boys Butcher Baker Candlestick Maker, which was like a 6-issue miniseries. One of the things that was notable about the Boys comics was that periodically throughout the run, the regular 72-issue run, there would be kind of these spin-off miniseries that would focus on either a character or a couple of characters and give them a little bit more depth, the room to kind of explore their backgrounds, a lot of backstory.
Right.
So in this one, which I'm holding in my hands here, which factors in as volume 10 in the trade paperback collection, if you're wondering, with Butcher's big smiling mug on that. Notice
very nice.
No beard, right? No beard on Butcher. That's one. So it was a little weird when Karl Urban started doing his performance with the beard. It kind of threw me initially for a bit, but I got over it.
I was thrown the opposite way, Charles, because I'm now reading the comics like, wait, where's the full beard? So
makes sense. So you're coming from the reverse angle that I came at it.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
So how far are you in, out of curiosity?
Well, no, I've only read, I think now 5 issues.
Okay, so you're just in the early days yet. That's good.
I'm pacing myself because I don't want to devour it and then say I've got nothing left.
Yeah. So you finished the Cherry storyline.
Correct.
All
yes,
right,
I've just finished that one.
Okay, good. But in this one, Butcher Baker Candlestick Maker in the comics, Butcher returns to London to view the body of his deceased father.
Mm-hmm.
So a little bit of a connection to this episode, although in this episode his father's not quite dead yet.
No.
And in London, he reminisces about what led him on his path of vengeance against superheroes. So this essentially is the big origin of why Butcher hates superheroes. And we also get the story of how he falls in love with Becky Saunders, the comic book version of Becca on the TV series. And she was a social worker, then they get married, but their honeymoon is horribly interrupted when the Seven show up at their hideaway. And later on, after some awkward events happen, Butcher wakes up one night and gets interrupted when the Seven show up wakes up one night when he finds Becky disemboweled by a fetus that was within her. And as we know from the TV series, she had a superpowered child who was much older on the TV series, but here it was a fetus, fully formed fetus that had superpowers. So we got to see the fetus hovering in midair with eyes glowing. So you've got that to look forward to.
Nice. And a fetus that literally rips its way out of its mother's
pretty
womb.
Pretty much. Yeah. So needless to say, Billy does not react well to this. And this is where we get the revelation that the Homelander was responsible for the rape, pregnancy, and death of Butcher's wife.
Caramba.
So it's a completely, again, different turn of events from the TV series.
And then some, I should say.
Yeah, so be prepared, all right? But I won't go into more detail because I know you're reading, but that's basically the highlights.
But these comics have everything, seriously. They even have, fetuses, that kill their own mothers. I'm like...
just picture a creepy-looking baby hovering in midair with glowing eyes, and it still has the umbilical cord attached.
And I thought that the ancient Greek myths were nuts, because if you read the real Greek myths,
right.
Or even Grimm's fairy tales, I thought those were nuts. They are nothing compared to the Boys.
I personally recommend Edith Hamilton's Mythology for Greek mythology.
Oh, that's a great one.
Yeah. So Go ahead.
I've read that, and also Stephen Fry's Mythos is brilliant as well for folks who want to.
I haven't read that one.
Get a kind of a tongue-in-cheek, should we say, retelling of the Greek myths by Stephen Fry, who's apparently quite the scholar in that sense, but it's fantastic. And
Yes.
I actually got the audiobook because I love Stephen Fry's voice, and so I had to listen to Stephen Fry read to me.
Yeah. It's another guy I shake my fist at with his cool, great voice that I'm so envious of. And you already mentioned that both John Noble and Karl Urban starred in the second and third Lord of the Rings films together.
Yep.
So, all right. 4 topics. Like I said, lots to talk about here. Topic number 1, let's talk Lamplighter, Huey, and Senator Victoria Newman, who's a character you need to keep an eye on. Just going to leave that there for anyone who hasn't watched ahead. All right?
Yeah.
So, Lamplighter and Huey, after the events of last episode, Lamplighter has been brought in by the boys and is going to be willing to testify against Vought in hearings that Newman is apparently holding on Capitol Hill. Essentially, Lamplighter meets with Victoria Newman and says that, well, Stormfront gave the orders. He just executed them as overseeing that Sage Grove complex that we talked about last episode that are staffed with or filled with rejects of compound V testing on fully matured humans.
Yeah.
So to give them superpowers. So essentially he's a key witness in this. And Huey, because of his recent injury in the previous episode, where he was severely impaled, bleeding everywhere.
It's miraculous he even survived. Let me just say that. Granted, okay,
pretty
it's
much
TV show miracles, but
Exactly. Well, I think it kind of helped that Starlight kind of. Did she use her
cauterized
powers?
the
She
wound.
cauterized. Yeah, that helped too. So there was a little bit of an intervention there on that one. But because of his injuries, Huey's kind of left to babysit Lamplighter while waiting for the hearings. So I want to get your thoughts on these two because they do share a good number of scenes together.
And a good number of porn movies as
And a
well.
good number of porn movies, yeah, in the daytime, no less. So what did you make of these two interacting? And Huey and Lamplighter kind of coming to realizations about themselves a little bit.
Here's the thing. I find that Huey, when he's in the zone, he's a very good person reader or people reader.
Right.
Because at first, you can feel that it's just like so cold in that room. It could almost be an operating theater. That's how cold it is there.
Right.
But because he's trying to make some sort of conversation, I guess, to pass the time, if you will, while Lamplighter is watching these ridiculous porn movies about the suits.
Superhero porn, essentially. Basically porn versions of the Seven as well.
That's right, and I'm still trying to understand what his reason is behind that. As in, either he just sees it almost like, I'm just going to sit back and watch this trash just to pass the time, or he almost sees it as lampooning the people that he hates, because it seems very sort of odd to me as why somebody would watch porn just like that, as if it were, wallpaper, because it's literally wallpaper. That's what he's doing. He's watching moving wallpaper.
Well, I might, if I could,
Sure.
offer up an observation, something that was expressed in this episode that might have some bearing here. So, Lamplighter tells Huey at one point that he's essentially dead because of his upcoming testimony at the hearing. As soon as he gives that testimony, he knows he's dead. The Seven will come gunning for him. So, especially Homelander. So, at this point, he seems almost fatalistic a little bit. He's kind of resigned himself to this fate. So, he's essentially going, well, look, I don't care about anything anymore. I just want something to help me pass the time.
So just
Eh,
mindless, going to some kind of mindless activity.
Yeah, and it's like he's probably going, well, I enjoy porn, so I'm just going to go ahead and watch as much porn as I can.
I suppose if that's how you want to spend your last
Yeah.
hours possibly on Earth, I guess.
No
To each
judgments
their
here.
own.
Yeah, no judgments here, but Huey being Huey, obviously taken aback by this, and so it becomes kind of a little bit of an odd couple, these two, and
Yes.
they get into this discussion about who is what's commonly referred to as a cuck these days.
Mm-hmm.
In which, if you're not
Yeah,
familiar,
because they.
go
Go
ahead.
ahead. No, go ahead. Go ahead, Charles.
I was just going to say that if you're not familiar with the term, cuck is a popular slang right now that's kind of a modernized version of the word cuckold, meaning kind of a weak, wimpish man. It's designed. It's a word designed to emasculate someone, to portray them as being so weak and wimpish that their wife will cheat on them with somebody else. Someone like a real man.
Because the original terminology is a man who's been cheated on.
Yeah,
literally.
exactly. So it derives from the word cuckold, but essentially it's kind of like derogatory, used by a lot of, shall we say, alt-right, extreme right people to kind of denigrate those
Democrats and
leftists and people of a progressive persuasion, shall we say?
Yeah, because like you're so wimpy that your wife is sleeping with other men because you're not man enough, as it were, to bring the goods to deliver the goods.
Regardless of the fact that it exposes their insecurities along the way, their own insecurities along the way.
Mm-hmm. You're compensating for something?
Yeah, pretty much. Or just trying to build yourself up, tear someone else down in the process of trying to build yourself up in a lot of ways. So they get into this debate a little bit, and Huey, I'm dying to know your thoughts on this, but essentially Huey talks about saying that Lamplighter, is acting like a cuck, and is like, do you want to be that, or do you want to be the guy who has sex with the cuck's wife?
Yes.
Especially when it finds out that, especially when Huey finds out that Starlight has been arrested and exposed as a traitor within the Seven.
Yeah, because Huey finally gets control of the remote.
Yeah.
At first he tries to get control of the remote, and Lamplighter's like,
he flips over the
news.
Remote,
I'll smoke you. Kind of
right.
thing. But and it's interesting that once again, the theme running through this is using sexual connotations to stick it to the man, if you will, because it starts here, and then of course numerous characters will use the term, I'm going to F this guy, and you want to F these people up, and all this kind of thing. So it almost seems like in this case the theme is sexual overtones to express that.
Right. Yeah, kind of essentially the metaphor of dominating someone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know what? I can't blame Huey for kind of feeling super awkward in this situation, because this guy's watching these terribly cheesy porn movies. They're not even classy porn movies. Come on, really, really bad. The acting is terrible in these films.
So Nick, as a aficionado of porn, now how would you?
No, but you know what?
How would you rate the production values now?
Here's a funny story about DJ Nick, because there have been times
story time
when myself and with DJ Nick in his youth was hanging out with his buddies, and they possibly high or drunk on certain substances. We're not going to go further into that, but
that's all right.
Randomly just channel surfing in the wee hours of the morning, and you get these porn movies, and we started to have these very philosophical talks about. There's a porn movie with a story, and there's porn just for porn's sake.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, the story's so threadbare, and they're just having sex. It's a terrible porn film. Where there's a little bit of story, a little bit of intrigue. Those are good porn movies.
Okay, so you're kind of approaching it from a more of a connoisseur.
Yes.
Appreciation
from a
from a cinematic. You're admiring the production values a little bit, or just the story content, the script. You're not so focused on the sex. You're focused on, like, am I getting a quality story out of this?
Yeah,
Okay.
right. Which is really weird. But I'm like, there have been times when some buddies of mine, just for laughs on a Friday, we'd get together and watch a porn movie.
Yeah.
And we'd actually debate it afterwards, saying, oh, the plot was so threadbare. Why did that guy not get his comeuppance? And all this kind of. It's actually hysterical to do. I mean, but obviously porn is not made for that reason. It's obviously not done to be reviewed. But
I think you've just invented another podcast, Nick. Porn reviews. Well, I mean, there you go.
There you go. Exactly.
Criticizing the cinematic quality of porn, I guess.
I know. Well, I mean, apparently there are actually ex-porn actors and actresses who do that, but that's another thing. But
right.
But yeah, I feel, to go back to the point is,
yes,
I can't blame Huey for feeling so kind of awkward in this moment because, as you said, possibly Lamplighter feels that his time on this earth is short and he's coming towards the end of his mortal coil.
Like I said, he's fatalistic, a little bit right now.
And Huey's always trying to interact with him, kind of like, come on, man, let's talk about stuff. And then he finally gets control of the remote, and boom. He sees, obviously, that the big story is that Starlight has been outed as a traitor to the Seven. It's like, we can't just sit around and do something. And then the great thing about Huey, that's why I said he's good at working with people, is he uses Lamplighter's words against him.
Yeah.
Or rather, because he understands that to relate to people, you have to use the same language that they do, because they then relate to you.
Yes.
And he uses those, and that's why I think he's a great communicator. He knows how to use communication.
He tries to speak to Lamplighter on his level to persuade him and uses arguments against him, like you said. So Huey, especially after he finds out that Starlight has been imprisoned, and Lamplighter reveals that, well, hey, just so happens that I think I know where Starlight is, that apparently there's a special holding facility for soups called 42D.
Yeah.
Which I kind of wonder about that name a little bit, but, maybe that's me just still thinking about the porn. I don't know.
Look, don't feel bad. I went there myself.
I think you were supposed to, personally.
Yeah, because as I said, sex is the theme here.
Yes, sexual metaphors. Yes. Yeah. So Huey, once he finds out that this facility is like, oh, we got to go in there, and Lamplighter at first is like, no, we don't. But Huey eventually convinces him to do this and stages this rescue operation to go in and get Annie out. So what did you make of their attempts as they break in to the facility before we get into, maybe we could go ahead and start talking about Lamplighter. Once they get inside the facility, what did you make of Lamplighter's reaction to finding out that his statue has been removed from the conference room?
Well, my first thing is, the big problem I used to have with the Arrowverse was how rubbish security was. Same thing with the boys. Security is garbage. It's like, this is supposed to be, Vought Tower and everything else, those super high-tech security. And you'd think they would have updated the
security codes. Yeah.
Because he obviously places his palm on the palm reader or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And it still works. It's like, come on, guys. How long has it been since Lamplighter was out of the Seven? Seriously, folks.
Well, you figure it's a headquarters for a bunch of superpowered people that maybe everybody's not going to be so eager to break into it. I don't know.
True. No. I mean, I know. It just seemed, I know I'm nitpicking here, but it just seemed a little bit kind of. The guy hasn't been in the group for a while. You kind of change the locks once you've kicked the guy out of the house, but just
Apparently not. Well, maybe they didn't, because now that I'm thinking about it, because remember, he was working with Stormfront.
No, of course, he was working at the facility.
So maybe they let him keep his access in case he needed to come in and report.
It could be that, but the thing is, though, we see Lamplighter almost questioning is, I hope this still works.
Yeah.
So because they might have revoked his.
Yeah, he might not have
security.
been sure about it.
Yeah. But lo and behold, in we go, and we're right in the sanctum sanctorum of Vault Tower.
I see what you did there. Yeah, you're throwing out that Doctor Strange reference a little bit.
Of course,
I see.
Kind of had to. But yeah, to get to the point that you were making, if he sees that his statue's no longer there. Well, I didn't expect him to have such a dramatic reaction, because knowing what we know about Lamplighter so far, he doesn't seem the type to be like, wow, they took my statue away. Granted, it then comes out that he says, I only wanted to make my father proud.
You're right.
So it could be almost that of maybe, I want to honor my father's memory. At least that's still there. So we assume that Lamplighter's dad is no longer with us. So it's almost he feels like it's a sock to his personal fact of, I wanted to make my dad proud, and they've taken this away. Yeah. And that's why he totally loses it. But I thought it was almost over the top. But it's like, but I guess seeing it in context of, you did it because you wanted to make your folks proud, and that's no longer there. You've stripped him down even more so than already he was super depressed, and now he's like 6 feet under depressed.
Yeah, that's I think, I agree. You have to keep this in its context, because like we were talking about earlier, that he's already decided that he's dead at this moment anyway because of testifying. So he goes in there maybe to try to have a little bit of hope that his statue would still be in there, and he's horribly disappointed and is let down, and it's almost kind of like the final straw that broke the camel's back. That it's like, okay, that's it. I'm completely done now. And that's when he decides to commit suicide by lighting himself on fire.
Yeah, because in fact, and that raises a question as well, because it's incredibly serendipitous that that's killing himself.
Yeah.
Starts the fire system go off, and then of course water comes down, and Starlight's able to free herself.
And Huey is freaking out while all this is going on.
Yeah, of course, because he doesn't know that in the meantime that Starlight's happily able to set herself free because of the flashing alarm going on and off,
right?
And so allowing her to harness her powers.
Yeah, the emergency lights kick in, and she can apparently draw from that.
Because that's why I was almost in two minds of, does he know that killing himself will set off the emergency system, and the fact that Starlight will be able to then use the light to open up herself.
I don't think he did.
I doubt it. I think it's too convoluted to think that he knew that would happen. And I don't see him as being so selfless as sacrificing himself so that she could be freed.
I just thought he was just so overwhelmed by, this feeling of finality that he was experiencing, that he just like, okay, that's it. I'm done. I'm taking myself off the board now before somebody else does it for me.
So as I said, it was pure serendipity then that what he did was able to allow Starlight to escape.
Yeah, that's my take on it. Yeah, I think so. But it was very interesting, I thought. And then, obviously now Victoria Newman doesn't have her witness for this. And that leads to a whole other thing going on that we're going to talk about. But now, at this point...
Not to mention it leaves poor Huey in the lurch, not knowing how the heck he's going to get out of there and where Starlight is.
Right. So, and Huey, a little desperate at this point, especially trying to... Now, what did you make of Huey's solution to get... Now, we're going to talk about Annie in a minute more.
Sure.
But what did you make of Huey's solution to get them out of the facility?
Well,
chopping Lamplighter's hand off.
It is the boys, so of course no gesture is too big for the boys.
They're just like, holding it
or too graphic.
Right.
And I guess this is yet another example of the lengths that Huey has to go to, outside of his character. But at the same time, I have to say, kudos to the guy. He thinks on his feet.
Yep.
Because he is desperate, but at the same time he says, I'm going to have to get out of here. So he's still able to keep his head in a crisis.
Yeah. Say what you will, Huey is obviously very handy in the crisis.
So is Lamplighter.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes. But yeah, that's why I think it maybe shows that as well, because on instinct, he's like, I'm going to have to get out of here. So maybe taking a page from the Butcher playbook, he does something the Butcher will probably have done without blinking an eye. He probably just hops over there,
right,
severs the chap's hand, and off he goes.
Yeah. Although with Huey, it's obviously a little bit of panic mixed in with that decision-making, probably.
Yeah, and not to mention, I'm sure the guy's not used to cutting up bodies just at random.
Well, if you notice, Huey was struggling trying to get that hand severed.
Yeah, exactly. The man is not a pro. That's not how you do it.
So now we're going to criticize his hand severing skills.
Exactly. No, I could see kind of Gordon Ramsay showing up. That's not how you cut. You cut this way.
You're a complete moron. What's wrong with you? Yeah.
That's why I kind of wanted Gordon Ramsay to show up on how you chop things.
There you go. There you go. That's if you're a fan of the TV show Chopped, that brings whole new meaning to the, if the cooking show Chopped, here in the States.
Nice.
All right. So on a related note, let's move on to our second topic. So let's talk about it from Annie's perspective. How she got into that facility in the first place. So she goes to meet her mom. And she meets up with her mom at a coffee place called the Jitter Bean, which seems oddly familiar to a certain CC Jitters on the Arrowverse shows, especially the Flash. Yes. So I have to wonder.
That's immediately what I thought of.
You think it was an intentional nod to the Flash?
It's hard to say, but I'm thinking maybe it being a superhero show, it could have been intentional, but then again, how many different versions of, should we say, coffee-related puns or jokes can you use? Because we have the Daily Grind, we have Jitters, so I wonder whether the folks, the writers were kind of like scrambling, saying, what can we call this place that's kind of neat and gives the idea of coffee? Because you can't use the Daily Grind, that's taken. You can't use Jitters, that's okay, let's do Jitter Bean. I don't know. It could be a bit of everything, I suppose.
Or if you remember, was it the Coffee Bean that was back in classic Amazing Spider-Man comics, I believe.
There you go. There's that as well, yes.
Yeah. But yeah.
They could have gone with your favorites, the thing, Charles.
Yeah, with coffee.
Like little dots and hot.
And hot, yes, yes. Little side note, I actually got that worked into a comic that I wrote for DC Comics, because I wrote a Generator Rex story for DC's. At the time, they were doing the Cartoon Network Action Pack, which had stories of Ben 10 and Generator Rex, the animated shows, the kids' animated shows. So I actually got to work that in. I had one character, a Generator Rex character, go looking for they were in a shopping mall, and I had them looking for a coffee shop. And they just so happened, because it was a kid's comic, I called it Darn Good Coffee and Hot, that they went to.
Nice, though.
Yeah.
See, look at this chap, ladies and gentlemen. He is a celebrity in his own right, but he acts so humble. See?
I'm a celebrity in my own mind. Thank you very much. Yeah. But anyway, yeah.
Not everybody gets to write for DC Comics, Charles.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I only got to write a few comics for them, but at least I could say I wrote for DC Comics.
It's there on your resume.
Yes, I can actually put that on my writing resume that yes, I wrote for DC Comics. So exactly. So I got that going for me, which is nice. So anyway, so Annie meets up with her mother, like I said, and Annie at this point doesn't really want to sit down with her mother. She's like, Um, you know, Donna says, well, I'm not leaving town until we talk this out. You know, she's still having problems dealing with her mother, and her mother is trying to reach out to her. And Annie kind of confides in her that the seven essentially do nothing all the time. It's just for money.
Yeah.
And Donna's trying to reassure her, saying, look, I'm here for you. We should just get away on our own. And then there's the awkward conversation change when she tells Annie that she's already cleared it with Vought and called them about an hour ago. And that's at that point you hear the record scratch. And things go completely sideways from that point on when Black Noir shows up to capture her. So what did you make of what Donna did to her daughter?
As an audience, naturally our reaction would be, you are such a ditz. What is wrong with you?
Right.
You should have your head examined.
You should have Gordon Ramsay come in going, what is wrong with you? Shaking him by the shoulders.
What is wrong? Yes, but obviously from an audience standpoint, because we know what has been going on, what the seven are about, etc., etc. Seeing it from Donna's point of view, as much as I feel she's a ditz who needs her head examined by the world's best doctors, at the same time, it's coming from a place of a place of goodness, if you will, because she doesn't know about all the sordid, terrible things that the seven get up to. That's why I say, as an audience, we get the reaction of you're just so stupid, but that's obviously the reaction us viewers should have.
Right.
Looking at it from Donna's perspective, she's trying to do something nice for her daughter. She is like, you need a break. You need to, maybe you and I, we can go somewhere, because it's all about, wanting to take her on holiday, like you mentioned, or wanting to say, let's take a break and go somewhere. So she was acting in good faith. She obviously didn't think that suddenly tear gas or whatever it was would come through the window and everything else would go south. So I think as much as she maybe isn't with the program or doesn't get on the trolley, if you will, to use that phrase,
right?
It does come from a good place. I still can't forgive her for taking money and making her child into a soup. That's something I don't forgive and I don't condone. But I think she's trying to make up for the mistakes that she made. What are your thoughts, Charles?
Well, I take your point. I see that. I can understand that, yes, maybe she was approaching it from good intentions. But as we, like as the popular saying goes, the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Certainly.
So the way I see it is that Donna was the victim of her own naivete. That even after her daughter has tried to say, look, these people are horrible, you don't understand what's going on, Donna still reached out to Vought in her naivete, like I said. And
she thinks simply the mother knows best.
Right, exactly. She was, because Donna, as we've seen, especially in season 1, she was essentially a stage mom. The type that would, that the stage mom in the sense of like with child stars or wannabe child stars, parades them out there to try in the hopes of turning them into a celebrity and then managing their career from the side, essentially trying to live vicariously through their children. In a lot of ways.
Was that famous actress? Was it Natalie Wood, possibly, who had the problem with her parents, who were like super helicopter parenting and
right? Yeah.
It might have been Natalie Wood. I'm not sure. I have to ask our friend Zan Sprouse about that. She's very good with all dishing out the dirt on actors.
Oh, she totally is. Yeah. She that goes without saying. So Zan's this incredible encyclopedia of knowledge that I'm so envious of.
You and me both, but very much a helicopter parent. But go ahead.
But
Charles,
kind of like it. But also if you ever saw the TV show Jessica Jones,
very well
that
said. Excellent comparison.
Patsy Walker's, or as Trish Walker on the TV show, her mom was a stage mom that. Patsy Trish was a child star, a very popular child star that was managed by her mother. So essentially like that. So I'm thinking Donna here, Annie's mom, was coming from the approach that, well, hey, we need to get you focused and back to the way you were. So I'll just call Vought. They'll work things out. Everything will be fine. Then you can go back around, going to various religious events and speaking there just like you used to, and everything will be fine.
Yeah, that's her big problem is, I think, because you mentioned, well said there, of course, that Annie has actually told her mum in previous occasions it's not all all fun and games. There's actually more to it, but the problem is, that her mum is hearing her but not listening to her. Which is the big difference.
There's still this big communication divide between the two. Yeah, and but. Maybe at this point, maybe after this event, after being captured and locked up, maybe Donna might come around. Hopefully, at this point,
it might knock some sense into. I hope so. I really sincerely hope so because, you explained it perfectly. It's the whole fact of she possibly still wants to live the fantasy of I raised my child to be a celeb, and in this case to be a soup. I don't want to ruin that, living vicariously through her daughter and stuff.
And that's all she knows. She sees her daughter as. Yeah.
Because she's possibly done nothing with her life except push this, peddle this child around.
Being the stage mom.
And being the stage mom. And she doesn't want to possibly see that shatter because that's possibly her raison d'etre in her life. That's all she's got going right now. So if that breaks, it almost leaves her completely devoid of any reason of what have I done with my life.
Right.
So it could be incredibly traumatic for her as well.
Yeah. So essentially she pushes her daughter. She's trying to push her daughter in this other direction. Her daughter doesn't want to go, quite frankly. So we'll see how it works out. But yeah, obviously Annie gets captured, has to be rescued by Huey and sort of Lamplighter, I guess.
Kind of,
indirectly,
sort of,
indirectly. But
I'm so glad it wasn't rescuing the damsel in distress, Charles. I'm so happy that they meet in the middle and that he's not kind of like, to use the Star Wars reference, I'm Luke Skywalker, I'm here to help you. I'm glad
I'm here to rescue you,
yeah, I'm glad we didn't get that moment because obviously it's a different show.
It's more like, oh, hey, you got yourself out. Well, cool. Okay.
Let's go.
Let's go. Yeah. That's how it worked. Now, meanwhile, while this is going on, Queen Maeve, we need to talk about, I think, at this juncture.
Yes.
Has been having more problems with Elena, her girlfriend. And Elena has told Maeve that she's going to her sister's because she can't stop thinking about the little girl on the plane that Maeve abandoned with Homelander. Yeah. And Maeve does not take this well, flips over a table.
Way to spoil good fast food. Granted, it's junk food, but heck, she brought all that junk food home. I'm like, you just turned over the table with all that food, man. Come on.
That could... 5-second rule, you pick it up. It's good. It's all right. Just pick it up quickly before it gets, germs on it. But, maybe that's just the former college bachelor in me, I guess, once upon a time.
Oh, no. You know what? In my viewing of American TV shows, I've actually found myself saying that to myself when something drops on the phone. 5-second rule.
5-second rule, exactly. Besides, it's probably loaded with preservatives anyway. It's probably like indestructible.
That's right.
So Maeve, after this awkward fight, essentially goes on a bender, and her assistant Ashley walks in on her having a threesome with 2 guys. And Ashley freaks out about this, going, "You're like, America's second favorite lesbian couple. What are you doing?" And, you got to get yourself back on track because, that's our brand. And Mev, understandably, tells Ashley to, be an effing human for once.
It actually reminded me, Charles, I don't know, are you familiar with the British comedy My Family?
I am not. What is that about?
Beautiful. It's hilarious. It's obviously, the title in itself, it's obviously about a dysfunctional family where you have the dad who's a dentist who's crazy, the wife who's kind of going through a midlife crisis, and the two kids. And these two kids, one of the two, who answers the name of Janie, actually
Yes.
works up this scam to where she pretends to be a lesbian. And her father, being on the conservative side at first, is not very happy about this. Towards episode's end, she comes out and says, I'm not actually gay. And he has the reaction, which kind of made me think of Ashley. It's like, he looks at her and says, how dare you not be gay?
Yeah.
So,
you built it up, like how could you do this to me? Yeah. Yes. That's funny.
But yes, it made me go to My Family. But it's a great show. If you get to check it out, I think if you enjoy good old BBC comedies, like Fools and the Horses or stuff like that, you'd love My Family. It's fantastic. At least a couple for the first 2-3 seasons are really, really good.
You've just reminded me that I really need to get a BritBox subscription at some point so that I can watch all that stuff.
Oh, the good old BBC I actually had a craving for Only Fools and Horses a couple of days ago. I so wanted to watch that again because I was a huge fan. But yeah, they just don't make them like that anymore. But
and we have BBC America over here, but all they show are like Star Trek, The Next Generation reruns. It's ridiculous. Like there's more American programming on BBC America than there is British programming, which is ridiculous.
Bring back the Fawlty Towers, the Crackers, all that stuff.
Yeah. The Young Ones.
The Young Ones. Oh man, that was brilliant.
I'm a huge Young Ones fan.
Yeah, bring back the good old BBC stuff because that's My Hero. Speaking of superhero stuff, that was hilarious. But yeah, no. To go back to the thing, obviously it's a PR nightmare for Ashley naturally because she's like, this is supposed to be our poster
and
child.
This is all Ashley worries about. So yeah, she's freaking about this. But what are you doing, man?
But I think Maeve may actually finally be setting Ashley straight, no pun intended, about the fact.
I see what you did there.
About the fact of quit being so crazy about stuff and lower yourself to the level of the people. And it doesn't always have to be. There mustn't always have to be a PR spin on stuff. Which may have ramifications down the line on how then Ashley considers the way she does her job.
Yes. Interesting. Yes.
Granted, here, Maeve is going on a binge, like you said, to get her feelings out and her frustration. Unlike Homelander, possibly, who goes and destroys somebody, she uses her frustration through drugs and sex, because obviously we could clearly see that drugs have been used in this situation as well. So
you bring up a good distinction because Homelander destroys other things, while Mev is more self-destructive.
That's right. It shows you how the characters deal with trauma or how they internalize their problems. And I guess Mev is more the self-destructive type. And we can actually see that she has tears in her eyes, when she talks about it, because she's like, be a human for once. Because she's obviously clearly distraught over how things went down between her and Elena, obviously. And she's clearly, it's like when you go to the pub and you find the drunk who's kind of in tears because his wife won't take him back. And he's just like, I'm destroying myself because I can't go home because my wife don't want me no more, kind of thing.
And now I want to play like classic country music.
Yes, there's a tear in my beer.
There's
good old Hank
beer.
Williams. Yes.
I'm a big fan of Hank Williams Sr., definitely.
Oh,
so I respect that.
You and me both.
Yep. All right. So Mev, after her, shall we say, threesome, her menage a trois, if you will, ends up becoming involved in all the chaos of Huey, Annie, and Donna's breakout from the holding facility. So after Starlight gets out of her cell, Black Noir attacks her, and in a rather surprising moment, Mev comes to her rescue and crams, of all things, an almond joy in his mouth because he has a tree nut allergy. And and a little side trivia. Now that I'm thinking about it, I forgot to mention this in our trivia section. Apparently, the actor that plays Black Noir suggested this because he has a real life tree nut allergy.
Oh wow, nice.
Yeah.
It's interesting how that found its way into the show. Cool.
Yeah, somehow. So I thought that was kind of interesting. At least that's what I came across in my research. I don't know. I'm guessing that's legitimate, but you never know. But either way, it's interesting, right? So.
Oh yeah.
Maybe you thought, we need to figure out come up with a way to stop Black Noir at this point. And he probably said, oh yeah, well just cram an almond joy down my throat because I'm allergic to those.
Yeah, we'll have to find kind of what is this guy's kryptonite who's like potentially indestructible. So yeah.
Yeah. So I thought that was very interesting. Mev actually taking a stand here.
Yeah.
Against, and helping, and there was a very interesting moment between her and Starlight, where Starlight says, "Just come with us. We can help you." And Mev is like, "No, I'm not giving this up." Or "No, I can't leave right now." Probably, maybe because she feels she has to be there to protect Elena from Homelander.
True, and or maybe because she wants to enact her own personal revenge with the whole black box of the plane and everything else. Because she's like, maybe I have everything figured out. I don't want to ruin this right now, but
I've got this. Trust me.
Yeah, it did leave me a little bit. At the time, it left me wondering of. There's more to this. It's just that because one, probably she's concerned about Elena, and two, because she has her own escape plan. So she feels that it might ruin that because I'm sure that if there wasn't that, she'd be more than gung-ho to join the boys, if you will. So it's because I've got my own plan. It's all good, kind of thing. But
you guys do your thing. I'll do my thing. Trust me, we're good.
Yeah, and plus, if you think about it, I suppose they're coming at Homelander and stuff from different sides, so we won't see them coming, which is actually more of a clever tactic in the military sense, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. So, kind of a war on two fronts, if you will.
Yeah,
I see what you're saying.
Well, what did you think of all this?
Well, knowing what I know from it's kind of hard because I have expectations of Mev as a character from the comics because that's where I know her most from.
Certainly.
So in the comics, Mev is very, she doesn't like to get involved. She is very cautious, very reluctant person.
Yeah.
As far as engaging Homelander. It doesn't want to take direct steps against him. So it was nice, it was kind of consistent also with the comic book version where she'll take a step, but she doesn't step too far and isn't eager to make the big moves.
Yeah.
She takes very slow, small, cautious moves. And she's thinking more long term, I think, than probably Annie or other characters are thinking right now.
Yeah, to use that quote, ripples, not waves.
Yes. Yeah, so I think Mev is playing more of a long-term game here, where everybody else is playing a short-term fix.
True, yeah.
In a lot of ways.
Yeah, she's kind of like, I'm in it for the long haul. And I'm also wondering do you think at this point we are to assume, granted, okay, we have a whole another episode coming up, but are we to assume that Black Noir at this point is going to die?
Well, I think it's a safe assumption, but the question is whether it happens now or later. We haven't gotten a big reveal yet that is important for Black Noir.
No,
So,
I know. I mean, I was kind of being a little bit provocative in that
oh, okay.
question,
All
but
right. All right.
but
All
I'm
right.
saying as the viewers, would you have
As the,
assumed or as a viewer for the first time, not knowing what happens in the
as
next episode, would you have safe to assume that Black Noir's going to die?
I would say yes. You would think that Black Noir is going to die,
Yeah, 'cause she's
but
kicked away his pills and he's kind of there on the floor,
yeah, and he's
crawling and
and kind of foaming a little bit at the mouth, if I'm not mistaken, or something. I can't tell. Well, he still had the mask on, so
he's there
you
like kind
probably
of
couldn't see it.
groaning and kind of.
Yeah, writhing in pain.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So you think it's safe to
So
assume that in fact, because that's what I thought. It's like, okay, he's dead. Okay, we're done with him.
right, and that's understandable, but we'll see.
Yeah.
I guess we'll see, but
To be
you would think he's dead. But then, you always thought Jaws was dead in a James Bond movie.
Yes, or to use an MCU quote at the end of the films,
Yes.
Black Noir will return? Question mark.
Yeah. The end, or is
Is
it?
it?
Dot dot dot. Question mark. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yes.
All right. Anything else about these characters before we move on?
No, I mean, I think we pretty much said everything. It's just
Okay.
it was like I just I mentioned the fact of it being so well, the story was so well written. The fact is, it is the fact that we get our actors and characters coming together again so fluidly was brilliant. I'm just so glad it was done the way it was done. As I said, it wasn't let's rescue the princess, kind of like Super Mario going off to rescue Princess Peach or Luke
Right.
Skywalker going to rescue Princess Leia. I like that. I really appreciated it. It's because I'm a proud feminist, and so I like my women strong, if you will, not being the damsels in distress.
Girls get it done.
I see what you did there.
See what I did there? All right. All right. Topic number 3. Let's talk about Homelander, Stormfront, Ryan, and Becca. So Homelander takes another step as in his ongoing quest to become a father to Ryan, who now whom he now knows, there we go, that has superpowers just like him.
Yeah. Not to mention wants to try to be like the best boyfriend in the world to Stormfront. Once again,
Right.
Let's see how I can impress Stormfront even more.
Yeah, so before they go to visit Ryan, they address the crowd and talk about how Stormfront says, well, earlier in the episode, there was a clerk that gets killed at a shooting. And in the process of trying to act like she's not stoking fear toward immigrants and portray them as soup terrorists, stoking that fear, she actually actively does stoke those fears against the quote-unquote godless soup terrorists invading the U.S. So it's something that unfortunately is Donald Trump used a lot, where he would say, well, I'm not trying to stoke any fear, but then do the exact opposite in response.
Well, I mean, but that rhetoric, of course, is as old as the hills, and we've seen it used constantly. We've seen it used now. It's as I said, it's old rhetoric that unfortunately I fear will not go away anytime soon.
Yeah, it's Stormfront stoking those fears of the foreign, the unknown, and trying.
And coming from Nazi Germany, she knows how to do that.
Yeah, and the whole putting it essentially into an us versus them perspective.
Yeah, typically finding a scapegoat for your problems.
Yeah, exactly. Trying to say that, well, these people are the reason that your life sucks. So therefore, you should be hating them just like I do, which is horrible, right? And inexcusable. But she says, well, we're at war. We need more Compound V, more soups, so that we can combat all these soup terrorists. And Homelander mentions during this, after that, mentions well, hey, we even had a mole in the 7, as it turns out. And this is where he outs Starlight as a traitor to the group, but then reassures the crowd, well, hey, she's been apprehended and she can't hurt anybody else because we've got her safely locked away because we know what we're doing.
Like that's right. It kind of reminded me of when George Bush announced they'd killed Bin Laden. It's like, we got him, kind of thing. So
Yeah,
that's where I went to.
well, actually, that was Barack Obama who said that. They got Bin Laden during the Obama administration.
Because I thought it was, then who was it? Oh, George Bush. It was Saddam then, I guess. Because there was that famous time when I remember George Bush looking into the camera saying, we got him. I think it must have been Saddam then.
Yeah, George Bush Sr., yes.
Yeah. No, Junior, I mean.
They had tried to hunt down Osama bin Laden, but didn't capture him.
Yeah.
And it was only in Obama's administration that the SEAL team got Osama bin Laden.
Then it may have been that, because I don't know, it might have been referred to Saddam Hussein, I'm not sure, but I mean, it's a tough one there.
I know Saddam Hussein was a popular villain for George Bush Sr. during the original Iraq War.
Of course.
Yeah. That's where they ousted him from power, and he was supposedly hiding in like some little bunker somewhere.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. And now he's happily having sex with Satan, or so South Park tells me.
Exactly. And I choose to believe South Park in that regard. Because, those two crazy kids, hopefully they can work it out. Yes. They keep having their problems. But
Satan and Saddam Hussein will eventually mend their fences.
Exactly. But Saddam... No. Anyway. Come on, guy.
You do that very well, actually.
Thank you. All right. So afterwards, all this, Homelander tells Stormfront, well, hey, I have something to show you, and brings her to meet Ryan.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, hey, guess what, honey? I've got a kid. And
once again, trying to show, he's kind of poster boy, best boyfriend, because at the time, we'd seen Stormfront looking kind of sadly at the mother with her child saying, my daughter used to look just like that. And interestingly, Homelander actually is selfless for once in a very disturbing way. Because
it's Homelander, it has to be disturbing, right?
Of course. But he thinks to himself, oh, I'll do something then that she likes and win her over to my side, kind of play the romantic card, and off they fly to meet Ryan.
Yes, they do. So, Homelander introduces Stormfront to Ryan and kind of acts like, well, hey, maybe we could be a family because this is someone I care very special. I'm very special. Someone who's very special to me.
This is my girlfriend.
Yeah. So essentially, it's Homelander's a little bit of an opening salvo, hinting to Becca that, hey, Stormfront's your replacement, and I'm going to take Ryan from you.
Yep.
So naturally, understandably, Becca is terrified because now she's got two horrible superpowered people to worry about and worry about the safety of her son with.
And it's all down to Stormfront being a master manipulator, because we know that Homelander would not have a chance in hell if it were just him to win Ryan over. Because in fact, when they arrive, Ryan kind of looks at Homelander's kind of like, hey, kind of thing, and just almost acknowledges him, but barely interacts. And it's that witch that Stormfront, to use a clean term, that actually wins him over with her witchy wiles.
Yeah.
Exactly, with her witchy wiles. So, man.
Witchy woman. Yeah.
But
anyway.
To use the great quote that you often bring up about Indiana Jones, Nazis, I hate these guys. Seriously.
I hate these guys. Yes. Yeah, Nazis. But so Stormfront and Homelander take Ryan to this like Vought playland somewhere, and it's kind of like a Vought themed restaurant. Like one of those, um, like popular restaurants that used to be, here, say like 15 years ago, themed
Wait, but,
restaurants.
but we don't get that though in this episode. Here they just fly off.
Oh, because see, I thought they started offering him a bunch of things, like
No. It
being
just it ends with Stormfront and
oh,
Homelander flying off, and
okay.
Becca looking at the sky, going, "No."
Oh, that's right.
'Cause
Oh, that's right. So, but they do say, didn't they say that? Well,
they
hey,
talk
they talk about it.
but
They
they
talk
don't
about it.
show.
Okay,
They talk, but don't
okay,
show.
okay. I'm kind of jumping ahead. I'm sorry. So yes, they just talk about this. You're absolutely right. So they say, yeah, we can show you movies, his Homelander's movies, and you can ride his roller coaster, that kind of
That's
thing.
right. It's doing the
Yeah,
whole, here it's all the commercials
yeah,
before we get to see it
yeah.
later. But here it's
Right.
actually, the whole thing is they take interest, or rather, Stormfront
Yeah.
geniusly shows interest in Ryan making Playmobil movies of
Right.
these classic Hollywood films. I really wanted to see what Dances with Wolves was like with the Playmobil kind of figures.
I want to see Silence of the Lambs personally,
Oh,
but
me
that's me.
too. But apparently, yeah, because apparently Becca's quite the cinephile. She enjoys
Yes.
high quality movies.
There you go. There you go. But so yes, so they just basically talk about this at this stage of the game.
Yeah.
They end up taking Ryan though and showing him that the compound that they live in is completely fake, in an attempt to distance Ryan from Becca.
Because the thing is, they have that whole talk outside. Basically what
Yeah.
happens is there's that moment where Becca takes Homelander outside, and
Mhm.
and here's the thing: Stormfront wears the pants in the Homelander with the relationship with Homelander.
Yes.
He
Right.
is so whipped. I mean, like, seriously, man, he's so whipped when it comes to Stormfront.
Well,
Because,
she's a manipulator, so she's going to be the one calling the shots
and she
and
doesn't
knowing
even
how to
have
call
to,
the shots.
she doesn't even have to say a word. She gives him the look.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing, because there's that one point where Becca kind of says, "Can we talk about this outside?" Because they're commenting on Ryan's films that he's made. Said, "Oh, I've done. You want to see Dances with Wolves and stuff?" And she says to Homelander, "We have to talk about this." And Homelander kind of like should I do this? Should I do this? Stormfront gives him the look.
Yeah.
And out he goes, most dangerous thing ever, you leave Stormfront with Ryan. And that's where the black magic happens.
Yeah, exactly. And this is where obviously Becca is petrified of.
Yeah.
That realizing probably, well, if Stormfront's with Homelander, she can't be a good person. She knows that something has to be wrong with her at this point.
Yeah, but what is crazy is how quickly they turn Ryan over to their side.
Yeah. And, Becca is just, being told by Homelander, like, well, you're lying to your son. And Becca says, well, I'm doing it for Ryan's own good.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like begging Homelander not to take Ryan away from her. So she's very desperate so that when Homelander and Stormfront expose this to Ryan that, oh, you're just living in this fake community.
That's right.
That, well, what else about this is fake? And Ryan ends up calling Becca, saying that she's a fake mom. So essentially, they've convinced Ryan that everything is fake news. And now he's being so suspect of everything.
You know what? I really felt so heartbroken for Becca because, and of course, my hatred for Stormfront just increased nth times because it's like
as if it wasn't already high enough.
Yes,
It's even higher.
It's like because
stratosphere
without
right
this,
now.
that's right. Without this bloody woman, Homelander would not have gotten anything done. It takes, she turns Ryan around in 2 seconds flat. She meets him once, she's able to turn him because by the time Becca's finished making Maeve lasagna, we find that Maeve has actually given her face to a lasagna.
Good eye, by the way. Yep.
And I was like, yeah. It's like, okay. Yeah, well,
Maeve Zanya.
Exactly, Maeve Zanya. And she brings it down, and then, she gets confronted, like you were mentioning, with Ryan calling her a liar. And you think to yourself, the repercussions of this are terrible, because you have Homelander 2 on
Stormlander. You might as well just call them Stormlander. Call them by the ship name.
The ship name is Stormlander, I think.
Stormlander, yeah. It has to be, right?
Yeah, because Homefront is too nice.
Homefront, yeah, it's Stormlander. It has to be Stormlander.
Because you have, Homelander 2 on your hands, because he's like so hateful. And it mirrors what, we'll then talk about in our next topic of, the way Homelander is described as a child. It seems like this is happening with Ryan as well, which is kind of creepy. A little bit early, but it's kind of creepy.
Yeah, so, and Becca is just beside herself when Homelander and Stormfront take Ryan away.
Yeah, and that's where we're left with her looking up at the sky saying, please come back, please come back. And it's like...
Yeah, and it's like, what she's ultimately completely powerless to do anything about it.
I'm glad that, as I said, that she did kind of keep her stance. She didn't get on her knees and scream no to the heavens.
No!
Which would have been a perfect time to do it. But they even had the camera kind of sweep up towards her the way they do when something happens and the character falls to their knees. Like, I'm glad that they didn't get Chantel to actually get down on her knees and say, and do no.
But it would have been funny.
There's all, Homelander!
Homelander! Yeah. I could be able to do that a little lot longer if my lungs weren't crap, these days. So yes, lamenting the fact that I should be able to hold that out a lot longer.
No, but color me impressed. I can't do that, so color me impressed.
You can't do that?
No.
Sure you can.
I can hold it for a little bit, but as I said, not as long as that. So
yeah, you should have. That's going to get me on a drunk cinema rant. I'm going to leave that there. All right. I started thinking about that. So let's move on. Topic number 4.
Yep.
Since you kind of set it up so nicely.
Thank you.
Butcher. Let's talk about Sam and Connie, Butcher's parents. So we finally get Butcher meeting his parents in this episode. Let's also talk about Jonah Vogelbaum, who just kind of hang out at his nice estate until Butcher shows up. Looking to bring him in as a witness for the upcoming hearings, not taking no for an answer.
But from what I've gathered, Charles, it's just him and his daughter Sonia in there, and that's it. There's nobody else in the house. Yeah.
So security not that great there either, apparently.
No. You just have to kind of say a name and the gates will open, but that's on Sonia though, not on him, I guess. But yeah.
So while in the beginning of the episode we kind of keep jumping back and forth, but there's a lot of interspersed characters in this. There's a lot of interwoven storylines going on here. So going back to the beginning of the episode where Lamplighter first meets up with Victoria Newman.
Yes.
Butcher gets a phone call, and it turns out it's from his mother telling him that his father has died.
Yeah.
And that she's in town, apparently, and wants to meet with him. So Butcher, obviously caring more about his mother than his father, as we quickly determine, goes to see her, only to find out, whoops, Butcher's father is actually still alive, after all.
Yes.
And wackiness ensues. So what did you make of Butcher being reunited with his parents?
Well, his mom is is a very sweet woman, and I think she's kind of almost how can I put it, submissive almost towards her, this very overbearing kind of husband, if you will. And because he seems, we hear more about what he was like through the exchange that Butcher and his father have. And it reinforces the fact that Homelander's upbringing and Butcher's upbringing are rather similar when it comes to that, of the fact of, being, or shall we say, as told by Vogelbaum as well when it comes to this, because he mentions that Homelander was such a sweet kid, and at 5, 6 years old, he was almost super sweet, but he turned him into the superhero.
And we've talked about them being flip sides of the same coin.
In
a lot of ways.
And here
Homelander and Butcher.
And here we find out even more from their upbringing, because we find that Butcher's father was just as abusive. And he almost prides himself in, look how well you turned out because of me being so stroppy and abusive with you. You're the strong guy. You survive. And we've learned that Lenny actually killed himself, Butcher's younger brother, Billy's younger brother. And he's like, Lenny wasn't strong enough to take it. That's why he killed himself. You are the strong guy. It's almost the survival of the fittest, is almost, if he puts it, he almost seems to put it to him. It's, I beat both of you. You survived. Lenny didn't. We weeded out the weak.
Yeah.
And you're the strong guy. And so look how well you should be thankful that I made you the way you are.
Yeah,
so
I'm responsible for making you the man that you are today.
Yes,
that kind of thing.
Yes, you're so tough and stuff because of me. Because if not, you probably would have been a lily like your brother.
Yeah, so, and Butcher, of course, blames his father for his brother's death.
That's right.
Yeah, so there's obviously a lot of resentment, and you kind of feel bad, I think, for Butcher's mother, Connie, who you can kind of get, just in this one episode, the feeling I get is that Connie put up with so much from her husband, Sam, and tried to protect her sons from Sam, but felt that she could only do so much, and was kind of either it wasn't, like she maybe thought that it wasn't her place to prevent a lot of the abuse that went on in their home from Sam.
Well, also possibly even out of fear, because we don't even know whether he beat her as well. So it's almost like the battered wife syndrome, if you will.
Yeah.
And then
she's very resigned to it, really.
Yeah. And then we find out that irony or karma has struck, and apparently Butcher's father is dying of cancer. Is that the deal?
Yeah, something like that. He apparently only has like 2 months to live, as we find out toward the end of the episode. And Butcher's mother says, like, look, I just was trying to reunite you guys. I just arranged this for your sake because Sam only has a couple of months, and she was hoping that Butcher would let it go.
They could mend fences and patch up their differences.
Right. Because she doesn't want her son becoming like Sam.
Well, more than understandable, but I guess here almost the damage is kind of done already. But I don't see...
Pretty much.
I don't see Billy turning into Sam, to be honest. But, of course, he is that rough and stuff because of the way he's been treated. It's the whole thing of nature versus nurture, which is obviously a big sort of an ongoing debate when it comes to why people are the way they are. And I think here it is very much a question of lack of nurturing has made Billy into the man he is today. Same thing when it comes to Homelander, where we get the fact that he was mistreated and abused or just toughened up, because we don't know at this point what Homelander went through to turn him from the sweet 5-6-year-old into this almost the monster that he is today. But we get the concept that apparently he was not always this way, and he was just mistreated to become that way. Almost a Clockwork Orange deal when it comes to how Homelander became. That kind of correction of the character.
Yeah, that's a good comparison. Interesting. Yep. I like what you did there, sir. Throwing out the old Stanley Kubrick. Nice.
I'll kind of have to. And what did you think of all this, Charles? These kind of father figures and all that?
Well, first and foremost, I loved John Noble and Lesley Nicol. I thought they were great as Butcher's parents. And you could definitely just a few scenes here and there really get a feel for what it might have been like for Butcher growing up.
Yeah.
And all the issues that have resulted from that. And yes, to some extent, I think it's as uncomfortable as it is. Sam Butcher is right that Butcher became the way he is because of Sam in a lot of ways, because of that abuse. Was it a good thing? Probably not. But, the past is the past, unfortunately. There's nothing really you can do to change it now.
Yes.
And Butcher's still has the option of deciding for himself who he wants to be. He doesn't have to be like his father. Oh. So it's up to him now to make that decision about the man he wants to become.
Which is often the fate of abused children is, do I also become an abuser, or does that make me more sensitive to the plight of people and makes me tougher because of it?
And unfortunately, in a lot of cases, that cycle of abuse just repeats.
Yes. In most cases, yes, abused children become abusers themselves. Not always, because there are folks
not always.
I have spoken to folks who were abused as children, but they're the most gentle people in the world because of it. Because I don't want to repeat what was done to me. But yes, of course, you do get, if you go to the dark side of things, of serial killers and what have you, they all come from very broken and abused homes.
Yeah. And unfortunately, a lot of cases, that cycle of abuse is so hard to break in a lot of ways.
Because that's all you know.
Right. Exactly. So it's a very uncomfortable situation, but we'll just have to see where Butcher goes going forward. Unfortunately, as we talked about, he goes to see Jonah Vogelbaum and has a nice cup of tea with Jonah and tries to get Jonah to come with him to provide evidence at the hearings. Jonah not so down with this. So Butcher decides, well, okay, I'm not in a really great place right now, so how about you either come with me or I murder you and your entire family?
That's right. Well, I think he might actually leave him alive to kind of see him do it. Because he's like, I'm going to go into the other room, bash your daughter's head in, then I'm going to go and find your sons and their wives, kill them.
Yes.
And then kind of come back. So it's almost like I'm going to spare you because the psychological torture will be unbearable for you because I'm not going to kill you. I'm going to destroy everything that is within your intimate circle. Almost kind of like what Kingpin did to Daredevil in one of my favorite Daredevil storylines where the Kingpin destroys everything that's near and dear to Daredevil but does not destroy him.
Born Again. If I'm not mistaken.
My favorite Daredevil storyline is Born Again for that reason. It shows you how manipulative and what an amazing villain the Kingpin is when done properly.
Yeah. Exactly. So, highly recommend storyline by Frank Miller and David Mazzucchelli.
Correct.
So, yeah. Highly recommended. So, Butcher persuades, shall we say, Vogelbaum to come with him. Vogelbaum testifies at the hearing, but just after being sworn in, the chairman's head explodes, and then Vogelbaum's head explodes. And a bunch of other spectators during the hearing, their heads explode just randomly. They start popping like daisies,
It's like a bag of microwave popcorn.
Right, exactly. So
to use some dark humor there, but that's what reminded me of. Because I guess I had
Go ahead.
popcorn that night, and so I was like, oh, that's kind of like when I was microwaving popcorn about an hour ago.
So you almost start expecting some John Philip Sousa to start breaking out, going dun 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 dun. Kind of like in Caddyshack, if you ever saw the movie Caddyshack.
Yes.
So that's what I'm thinking of, right? During the explosions on the golf course. That's where my head goes. So, I believe it was Sousa anyway. But so everybody understandably freaks out. Grace Mallory gets Senator Newman out of there, interestingly enough. So everybody else, like the members of the boys, are watching all this happen, unfold live on TV. And Huey, as the episode ends, is like, so what do we do now? And nobody has an answer for him.
That's right.
And that's where we're left off.
Exactly. That's where the episode
To be continued. ...
Yeah, that's where the episode comes to a close.
So,
Talk about
ending the episode with a bang, and another bang, and another bang, and another bang.
Yeah, I think to go back, I think I believe it is Sousa to be. Yeah, I think so. You are correct.
Yay.
I believe so. Yes, because they also do that. It's also in V for Vendetta, which is used a lot. So
yes. V for Vendetta. Yeah, I was thinking about that too. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah, so I believe it is Sousa because I actually have the soundtrack for V for Vendetta, and of course that track features heavily in it. So yeah.
There you go. Well, thank you, Nick. I wasn't going too crazy there by remembering it that way.
You know your stuff, Charles. Come on.
All right. If nothing else, I'm good at faking my way through. All right. So, anything else we haven't talked about this episode? I know we haven't talked about the deep in the church.
Well, yes, because there is, of course, if we want to mention it briefly, the fact that apparently the president of the Church of the Collective is going to be sitting down with Vought, and he's giving
Alistair Adana, by the way.
Yeah, and he's giving A-Train and the Deep hope that he will be talking to Vought about them and getting them back into the Seven and what have you. And we find out also that the non-Hawkeye guy in this
Eagle the Archer, yes.
AKA Eagle the Archer, is actually a terrible person, or rather he's been ostracized completely from the Church of the Collective. They want nothing to do with him, and that's where we get that moment which is actually hilarious, where the head of the Church of the Collective asks the guys, "What do you think about Eagle the Archer?" And the Deep's like, "Oh, he's a stand-up guy. He helped me through everything." And he's like, "He's a terrible person. We don't want anything." "Oh, yes, of course. I had seen that he was a bit of he was a nasty piece of work." And A-Train ain't buying it.
Yeah, he completely, the Deep quickly backpedals on that statement. And A-Train's just watching all this going, seriously? He was your friend, and now just because this guy says so, he's not?
Yeah. He's not drinking the Church of the Collective Fresca.
No, not at all. I'm going to give points to Nick on that one. Points. But yeah, I don't see what the big deal is. Hey, maybe Eagle, he just happens to like sexual partners dressed up like deer.
Yeah, that's what came up.
So he's just, he's a furry aficionado. So
yes, everybody has their own fetish, I suppose.
Exactly. But apparently, they don't. The Eagle the Archer has now been officially ostracized from the church, and now Adana expects everybody else to disown him as well. Yeah, turns out
to toe that line. Yes, I guess that's kind of what we got there was pretty much that, and and A-Train. I mean, he seems like he's happy. It's more of a means to an end of getting him back in the Seven, rather than towing the party line, if you will, when it comes to Church the Collective.
Yeah, A-Train could care less about the church. All he cares about is getting back in the Seven. And he's just playing along. Yeah. At this point.
Whereas I think the Deep actually buys into it more. Plus, he got a beautiful wife out of it and everything else. Right. He's like, yeah, this is cool. This works for me.
Yeah, I'm good with this. Yeah, exactly. So we'll see what happens. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So, anything else you want to talk about?
All in all, I think we pretty much said
Covered
everything
it.
needs to be said. I mean, it was a jam-packed episode, and I think we did our best with all our tangents here and there. But I think pretty much we got it done, as Larry the Cable Guy would say.
Oh, interesting reference. Okay. I'm not sure Zan would approve, but we'll see. We'll see on that one. We'll have to wait for the judge to come in.
When you run a country show, you have to, of course, reference Larry the Cable Guy.
Oh, that's a good point. That's a good point. All right. I guess I'll have to give you that one. All right. So, do you have any favorite quotes?
I have a couple. When it comes the exchange between Huey and Lamplighter, where Huey says to Lamplighter, "You're not the cuck, I'm the cuck," and Lamplighter's like, "Actually, you're worse. You're the cuck fluffer," which I thought was fun. And I know you have the one quote, Charles, so I'm going to leave that one to you. But the one that I did want to mention was Victoria saying, opposition's going to have a field day with him. Disgruntled ex-soup. I'm fairly sure he's effed half the Sacred Heart cheerleading squad. But yeah, he'll be a good witness. It's not enough, though. And Butcher's like, not enough? If torturing and burning a bunch of mentals on Vort's say-so ain't enough for you Muppets, then what the F are you good for, huh? A strongly worded tweet.
Nicely read, sir. Nicely read.
That
was good. Let's see. On a related note, I have Butcher with Victoria Newman, where Butcher says, "Congress, please. What a bunch of corrupting effing C's they are." I have to be very careful with that. And Victoria replies, "Come on, you're not the first person to call me a C, Mr. Butcher. I'm starting to think it's like a badge of honor."
Yeah.
And let's see, Huey the Lamplighter saying, "Look, this isn't healthy. You can't watch porn while the sun's out."
Yes, I knew you were going to go with that one.
That was a good one.
It's hilarious.
And again, Huey the Lamplighter saying, "Do you want to be the cuck or the guy who F's the cuck's wife?"
Yeah.
All right. So what's your rating for this one, sir?
I'm going to give this 8.5 out of 10. What's a good one? I suppose human combustions.
Okay. Where the exploding heads or something. There we go. Well, I'm going to be a little more generous than you. I give this one 9.
Ooh,
I really like this one. 9 out of 10, severed hands for fingerprint access.
Nice.
And my backup, in case you stole that one, was going to be Almond Joys.
Ooh, okay. And I still have to taste Almond Joys. Let's see if they're as bad as they say.
Yeah, I don't eat them. I'm not a big fan of almonds anyway, so I've never eaten the candy bar. So I can't testify to the quality of that
I don't know.
bar.
I mean, my grandma was a big fan of sugared almonds.
Okay.
But you know, I only have tasted almonds in panettone, which is a sweet thing that we have over the holidays, but never tried Almond Joys.
Yeah, I usually only eat candy bars that are chocolate without almonds in them. So.
Oh. Well, hey, to each their own.
Exactly. Yeah, but now, Phantom Zone fan mail, we did get some fan mail from Dave Proctor, who just squeaked in under the wire as we were recording this episode.
Oh, wow. So it's like a buzz beater kind of thing.
Exactly. So, yeah, I just got his email about a half hour ago as we were talking.
Well, Dave beat the buzzer.
Yeah, basically. So, cutting a little close there, Dave, but I got to read it, right? So, because he's writing about Butcher Baker Candlestick Maker. He says, I hope you both are doing well. Well, thank you, Dave. I hope you and your family are doing well. Yes. Welcome to the holiday season. I hope you're enjoying doing this podcast as much as I am enjoying listening to it.
Well, thank you.
Well, I think we are.
We're having a blast.
Hopefully you're enjoying it more than we are doing it, though. We're enjoying it. We're enjoying doing it. So, yeah. We just want you to enjoy it more than we are.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. That's not selfish at all, right? You know, we want you to enjoy it more than we do.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Art imitates life, he continues, as we see the right stirring people into a frenzy. Yep. Starlight and her mother got together, and Starlight lost her faith. So many things in her life that she has relied on are failing her now.
True.
Then Black Noir attacked the coffee shop. This will further strain Starlight's ability to have a normal life. Butcher's mother calls and lies about his father dying in order to get them together. I guess everyone has family problems. Slightly. Starlight is publicly declared a traitor. Butcher's dad is Sherlock Holmes' dad, too. And I mentioned this earlier in the episode. Butcher and Sherlock are brothers? Well, sort of.
Kind of.
In different fictional TV universes, but sure, why not? Let's just go with that. Mev is having relationship problems. Isn't it fun when your boss wants to fix your personal life?
Yeah,
I wouldn't really call Ashley her boss because I can't see Mev thinking of Ashley as her boss. Now, maybe Vought, but yeah. And she is the Vought representative, I guess.
Yeah, J. Edgar I can understand, but
Stan Edgar, yeah. J. Edgar is the FBI, the FBI.
That terrible president, yes, the worst Hoosier ever to be a president, yes.
He was never a president.
Oh, okay, good. Okay.
No, he was just the head of the Federal Bureau of Investigation.
Okay, yes, because he started that, yes.
Yeah. So Dave continues. Is it possible that the Deep is delusional about fish talking to him? I know he has powers, but there are people in the real world that hear voices in spite of people actually being able to speak to them. Perhaps he has powers in psychosis. Interesting theory. So what does that say about Aquaman?
Or Namor the Submariner.
Or Namor the Submariner, yeah. But I don't think Namor can control fish, can he?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Yeah, he's a little different from Aquaman in that regard. Yeah. He doesn't have the aqua telepathy.
Yeah, he doesn't really talk
Aquaman
much.
has. Yeah. Homelander has no idea what a good father is. Well, that's the understatement of the century. Lamplighter immolates himself. Yeah, there's a good word you don't hear too often. Immolates. Or, as I like to call it, Lamplighter flambe. Flame on.
And I just watched Fantastic Four, The Rise of the
Talk
Silver
about a
Surfer
Human
the other
Torch,
day.
right?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Starlight versus Black Noir. Light versus darkness. Maeve to the rescue. Tree nuts as a weapon. Nice. Butcher's demons are rooted deep. He may never learn to live with his brother's death. Exploding heads. No one expects exploding heads. Not even the Spanish Inquisition, Dave.
Oh, and may I also say a big shout out to Dave Proctor also for the great job that he did on Next Stop Everywhere recently as well.
Yes, he did. He did
wasn't
a
the
fabulous
Doctor's
job.
Daughter and did a great job of it.
Yes, we just had that out this past week. So
Dave, I want to tell you from one podcaster to another, great job.
Yep, excellent job. We always have it. We enjoyed having Dave on once again, and he's always welcome on Next Stop Everywhere. Open invitation. Dave signs off. Keep up the good work, fellas. I hope everyone is ready for the hell we call the Christmas shopping season. Stay well. Well, there's an upbeat note to end on.
Positivity, optimism, yes.
Get ready for hell.
Yes, it's like celebrate good times. Come on. I will.
It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas.
Yes, indeed.
All right.
That's why I shop online. I avoid the crowds.
And the fact that you celebrate Hanukkah.
Yes, indeed. Well. But I still have to, because since my dad is a non-practicing Christian, we have
Do you have two celebrations?
Yes, I'm very lucky that I get Christmas and Hanukkah together.
Bonus gifts. All right.
Yes. So yeah, we do a bit of both. But yeah, since then I've always kind of done all my shopping online, Charles, because I can't stand the crowds. I'm not a big fan of malls, and I'm like, no.
I'm right there with you. I totally understand that. Yes, and especially this year, right? This is the absolute worst year to go shopping.
Yeah, I mean, call me a lazy bones, but I just kind of like, from behind my keyboards doing all my shopping for all my loved ones.
Typey.
Exactly, behind my keyboard, or heck, even on my phone, buy, done. Okay.
Yep. All right. So thank you, Dave. We really appreciate you writing in. Just like I said, just under the wire.
Yep.
So if you want to be like Dave, please write to us at fandomzonecast@gmail.com. That's fandomzonecast@gmail.com. Or you can reach us on Twitter at fandomzonecast on Twitter. Facebook, of course, the Fandom Zone Podcast, or Instagram at Fandom Zone Podcasts. And Nick, where can they hear more of your dulcet tones over the interwebs?
Well, when it comes to me, Charles, if country music is your style of music you enjoy, I do host a Whiskey and Cigarettes show where we play today's country, traditional country, and everything else in between. For more information on that and how you can tune in, you can visit our website. That's whiskeyandcigarettesshow.com. Also, podcast-wise, I do host Happiness and Darkness, a superhero movie podcast, where we discuss superhero movies from Marvel, DC, Dark Horse, Image, and more. If you'd like to discuss your favorite superhero movie, you can hit us up with the email at happinessanddarknesshow@gmail.com. And of course, we are on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Also, we do host I do also co-host Gold Standard, the Oscars movie podcast, where with good friends Zan Sprouse and Rachel Friend, we're going through all the movies that won the Oscar for Best Picture from 1927's Wings to present day. If you'd like to join us to discuss your favorite Best Picture winner, you can send us an email at goldstandardoscars@gmail.com. That's goldstandardoscars@gmail.com. We're also on Twitter and Facebook. And when it comes to the man that gives me so much hilarity, what about you, Charles?
Well, Nick, first off, I want to say Nick is an absolute saint for putting up with my silliness while he's doing his shameless plugs. So,
No, you're a joy to podcast with. It's always fantastic.
I'm just goofing around. I'm holding up like the butcher's big mug on the trade paperback or the Batman Funko. And
I see it as training for my stamina of learning to keep a straight face. So far, I'm failing miserably, but
That's all right. So Nick's probably just like, leave me alone. I'm trying to do this.
It's fine. As I said, it's good practice. So that when folks are kind of heckling me, if I can keep it together.
So as for me, of course, at Charles Skaggs on Twitter, at Charles Skaggs on Instagram. Facebook, of course, Charles Skaggs in Hilliard, Ohio, and my blog of geeky things.
Damn good coffee. And hot.
Damn good coffee and hot. Where I talk all the stuff we talk about here on the Phantom Zone podcast. All kinds of comics, TV, comic book TV, news of my other podcasts that I do for Southgate Media, including, Titan Talk, the Titans podcast that I do with Nick and Jesse, and whenever we have Titans or Doom Patrol to talk about. So kind of on hiatus right now. But also Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast, where Jesse Jackson and assorted special guest companions like the wonderful DJ Nick join us. Oh, and Dave Proctor as well. Yep. Join us to talk Doctor Who, Torchwood, Sarah Jane Adventures, and Big Finish Audios, and more. Ghostwood, the Twin Peaks podcast they do with Zan Sprouse, where we talk about all things Twin Peaks, David Lynch, and we'll hopefully be talking more about this mysterious new TV series that David Lynch has been apparently working on that we just found out about this past week that is has the working title of Wisteria. So that's very enigmatic.
Yeah, I've noticed Mr. Lynch has been teasing that a lot of late.
If nothing else, it's going to give us something more to talk about on Ghostwood. That's cool. And then, of course, Drunk Cinema, our Zan and I's latest podcast, our little side project, side gig, where we kind of just, enjoy adult beverages and adult language and then watch some great movies that we both love to bits. And first episode, we talked Batman 1989, and this past week, we discussed Ferris Bueller's Day Off. And according to Nick, he enjoyed our little discussion
Indeed,
that we had.
For not being a Ferris Bueller fan, as I said, it's not as hardcore as the two of you. I enjoyed it. You guys did a good job.
Well, thank you. I hope we made it a little more interesting for you.
Oh, yes.
Enjoyable. And if nothing else, gave you something to laugh about. So everybody, please check that out. And stay tuned because coming up for December, we're going to be, of course, talking the ultimate Christmas movie, Die Hard.
Oh, yes.
So that's going to be a lot of fun, as we're both big fans of that film as well, as everyone should be, because it's an awesome, awesome action film. All right, so next time in the Phantom Zone, episode 198, we are going to be talking at long last, What I Know, the Boys Season 2 finale. And this one, Butcher makes a deal with Stan Edgar to help Vought, reclaim Ryan at Homelander's cabin. However, Butcher reneges on the deal and attempts to save them all from Stormfront. And wackiness ensues. So we'll see what happens. Nick and I already kind of know what happens because, hey, we watched ahead.
Yeah.
But we're going to wait 7 days to talk about it because we've already talked long enough as it is.
Yes.
So, Nick, thank you so much. I had a great discussion. Obviously, we really got into this one as well.
Yes.
And it's been a lot of fun. Maybe it's just I'm so reluctant to let go. They've been enjoying these discussions so much.
Oh, well, Charles, it's always a joy and a pleasure to talk to you. You know, I mean, as I said, it's any project that we get to do together is always such a wonderful thing. And I definitely will have to put my thinking cap on to think of what can possibly be organized, you know, with myself, you, and Jesse for 199 and 200 for sure, because those are big, big episodes, man. I'm so happy to be a part of this.
Yeah, I just can't get enough of talking to you. So much so that I'm going to talk to you in about 6 days.
Yes, indeed. Stay tuned, folks, for that. There's something special brewing in a galaxy far, far away. So there's definitely something special.
I see what you did there. Very clever. Very good. May the force be with you, Nick. All right. So, everybody, thanks again for listening. Come on back. Phantom Zone 198 as we inch ever closer to the big Phantom Zone 200, whatever that turns out to be. And we'll see you next time for the Boys Season 2 finale right here on the Phantom Zone podcast. Goodbye, everybody.
Ciao.